Well, okay, Sinatapi, how are you today? My name is Theda Newbreast in English, and Nistu Nidanako Oyo Sakoyi. It's my second Blackfoot name. My first Blackfoot name is Okstukama, that my grandma Agnes Atstanikiwa, Agnes Ironpipe, gave me when I was born. I was born in 1956. And I want to welcome you. I'm part of the team um, of the Native Wellness Institute, and we're an organization that get somewhere else. Hi, I guess I'm back. So welcome to the Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. I'm going to be with you for the next hour or so. And the Native Wellness Institute would like to really thank the N7 of Nike, who has always supported our efforts. And I think they support our efforts because we're just our bottom line, our mission, like Nike, is we have our mission is just to keep the teachings of our ancestors alive. And so and I'm just gonna walk around because I'm just seeing where the Wi-Fi is the best. So this power hour, it's interesting. I just wanted to visit with you a little before we jump into this flying monkey syndrome. Because I was just thinking to myself, and I was asking some of like my relatives that are younger. I was asking them if they watched The Wizard of Oz, because sometimes it's good to know where the history comes from. And so I'm going to see if we can get a Wi-Fi signal right here. And so I was thinking, something my mother told me was during the Depression, a lot of our grandparents and our parents that lived through the Depression is the thing that kept them vibrant and uplifted was they made certain movies for entertainment. And I was thinking, that's kind of like some of us who we just get a reprieve when we can go online, or we can make a funny TikTok, or or we could just like binge a little on Netflix. It during this pandemic, it's a time when it can uplift us. And so The Wizard of Oz, and if you haven't seen it, please, just check it out. There is a couple of people that aren't so good, and they would be called narcissists. And we, in this past 9 months, I was just thinking it's almost like gestation. Like that's how long it takes a woman to make a baby. So now we're this pandemic, Native Wellness Institute wants to uplift you. Wicked Witch, and she has these flying monkeys that fly around, and that. So we're going to talk about healing first. We're going to describe it, and then we're going to talk about healing from the flying monkey syndrome. And you remember in the movie, you remember when Dorothy throws the water on her, and and she kind of evaporates, and oh no, I'm melting! Oh no! Hello. Hi. So I guess I'm going to stand here because that's the best. I live on a rural reservation, and this is the best Wi-Fi connection that's standing here. And that's how it is in rural America. we really realize that a lot of you, especially up in Alaska, or way out there in the bush, eh? Are some of our friends out in, in Ontario and stuff. The Wi-Fi isn't as good as where there's broadband, etc. So let's get back to the story of what is the flying monkey syndrome and how we're kind of in it right now. So, in The Wizard of Oz, when the Wicked Witch, who wants to get Dorothy's ruby shoes, her magic ruby shoes, when she wants to get that back from Dorothy, she sends out these flying monkeys to do her biting. And these are, so we kind of, the thing in the last 9 months that's been good for our country is we all know what a narcissist is now. We all know the characteristics of it. We all can describe it. But what we'd like to share with you is to pay attention, for Native country and First Nations and Indigenous people, pay attention to those that surround, because even that narcissist, they weren't born that way. They became that way. And so we're talking about the people, and they could be, sometimes we call them the yes men, or someone says drink Clorox and you do. Someone tells you something, and some of the characteristics of this flying monkey syndrome is they guilt you. They guilt trip you. They twist the truth. So that means they lie to you, and so or they gaslight you. And gaslighting, I was thinking, so I always have to talk in story form. And so I've been working with, about 4 decades up in Canada, a lot with First Nations and Métis. And I've been working, almost with Native Wellness. We've almost worked with every tribe. So we've worked with, 500 plus tribes. And in these 500 and plus tribes, there is always a phenomena, and it has to do with us healing from our trauma. And it's so if you have, and I've noticed in some communities that if they had a whole generation that was in boarding school, or a whole generation that was in residential school, that the trauma that they experience and then they grow up to be adults, there's a loyalty among them. And even if, they get into leadership or into power positions, like they run housing or something, something like that, there's a loyalty to those that they were children with and they suffered trauma. So remember that, because that, as you heal, you learn to not just give your loyalty to anybody. And that's very important, because part of healing is for us to give our loyalty first to ourselves, and second to our belief in our Telepathy, your creator or your God or your higher power, or however you've been taught, because there's only one God, but we call him many different things, or we call her many different things. And so in that story, because I just noticed because like in our we have 8 reservations here, and in the past few, I'd say like the past 10 years, something is happening, because embezzlement is going out of style. And it's going out of style because people in the past have gotten away with, payroll advance, thousands of dollars, and never paid it back. It's people have taken the tribal credit card and went on a trip to Vegas or DC and spent a lot of money. That kind of stuff. And so then that abuse, or that bruising of the system, is usually someone who has been traumatically hurt, and they have it would be lateral oppression. They think they're entitled to do this, so they're entitled to get some extra per diem, and entitled to dip a little into each of the budgets, and they've been hurt, so there's some kind of entitlement there, and these are we're naming the behavior because we're going to talk about the healing in this hour. And so the healing is, lateral love, just lateral love and love of self-care and having your own reality and not doubting your own reality. And so I've noticed that in our healing here, as we prosecute, or as we call people out, and even agree to have audits, agree to do things like have a financial system that is transparent. I was thinking about like places like Fort Peck has been courageous. They publish their budget, and they publish where the budget went. I noticed that some other tribes, I know over at Salish Kootenai, Shelley, Flant, and they're doing such an incredible job of healing. They're picking up the missing and murdered indigenous in Montana right now. But this entitlement, it's worth pointing it out because you can heal from it. And the healing is, like one of the foundational pieces of a lot of our tribes is what our ancestors operated under collective agreements. And collective agreements is where you made decisions that would prosper and be abundant and be good for all of the people, not just a select few. And you guys know that. You know that we have a lot of our leadership. We look up to them because in the old days, our leaders would just give everything they had. They often gave away everything. And so that's that generosity, that giving, like one of the things that just like part of the healing happened yesterday. It was just like too cool. Is one of our crazy dog brothers named Craig Falcon and several others. They decided to sponsor a dry meat cutting contest. And, everybody threw in some bucks. I threw in some bucks. And it ended up being like $450 to the best dry meat cutter. And yesterday was, you had to bring, the meat was, had to be dried. And it was also a taste test. And there was just these incredible, one of, I think Walter Running Crane won. And he had cut like a total back strap. And had cut it into something that was 73 square inches. They were measuring, up and down, and so they did square inches. And it was so fun because that was like the collective agreement. A lot of our people, we struggle with a lot of people lost their job or their way of earning an income. So we're collectively making sure everyone has enough to eat. But making it fun. So anyway, this dry meat cutting contest, when it went on video, and they were Anna Bullshoe, man, she had a 73-inch piece that she had cut, but there was only about 3 inches wide, so there was anyway, that was an amazing piece. But it's kind of interesting. Now, it's just interesting that all the contestants I thought, oh God, it was just like all the contestants for this dry meat cutting contest were men. And then, Anna is one of our two-spirited women that's just out there. She doesn't hide that, she's two-spirited, and I was just saying, they were all men, and so it was just so beautiful because sometimes we have a blurred gender line here too. We definitely have our warriors, and again, I'll say, in our belief, we believe as many stars in the sky, that's how many definitions of gender that you have. And so that's in a collective agreement. And that was something that we honored and we appreciated before the settlers came. So let's visit about this flying, monkey syndrome. So one of the things that we're healing with, and that's kind of why, this is my shirt that I wear every January 20th since 2009, because that was a tremendous inauguration, and our country we're going to have a beautiful inauguration January 20th. And so Native Wellness Institute, we've been talking about, we're having like trainings on allies, trainings on self-care. We're having trainings on seasonal affect disorder, missing and murdered women, healing, all of these things because we'd like you to think about how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to take care of your life partners and your loved ones? How are you going to take care of, your grandchildren, your children between now and January 20th? And so healing from the flying monkey syndrome. And sometimes this flying monkey syndrome, some of the behavior that goes with it, and I just have to describe in stories because when you're being gaslighted is when someone twists the truths, or it causes you to have doubt about your own reality. And gaslighting can leave you with a feeling like impending doom. Like things, it's all misery, it's going to be bad. It can leave you feeling vulnerable. It can leave you feeling very sensitive. It can feel you doubt. What it does is it brings in doubt. And so one of the things that I double dare you to find out in your tribal language if you had a word that for doubt. Because I remember Narcissus Blood in 2015, him and Alvine had come down and they were starting another layer of teaching the language. And Alvine she's up on the Canadian side, and so was Narcissus. But they were sharing with us that in our language, we don't even have a word for doubt. That was not, they said doubt didn't come until the settlers came. So examine that, because one of the feelings that you have when you're being gaslighted is doubt. A doubt of yourself, doubt of the love, doubt in your relationship with Creator. You don't feel secure. You feel you can feel alone, you can feel isolated, and you can feel insecure. And I'm standing here because this is where the Wi-Fi is working. This is like, I always, it reminds me of Sundance. Because I think this pandemic is like Sundance. It's, in Sundance, like when you're praying and you get so hot. But you still, they say, stay focused and keep your eyes on the center pole while you're praying. But if when you get a little break and it's so hot, you dig in the dirt, or at least I did, the 10 years I did. You dig in the dirt and you put the cool bottom of your feet. Take off your moccasins for a minute and put the cool bottom of your feet in that dirt. And it cools you off, and plus it's Mother Earth. It's almost like a sakum, Mother Earth. That's how we call the earth. It replenishes you. So healing from the flying monkey syndrome. One of the things that I'd like you to, and I say this over and over, is practice is just going out and laying on the ground for 10 minutes or more. Again, just spread out. Yesterday, I got my snow clothes, but there was a little bit of gravel, and I just laid out, and all the animals, some of my pet foxes, they come on the walk now sometimes. They don't come with us. They kind of like look in. But my dog, when I laid on the ground, just came and like sat by me. And I could feel the earth, the energy. So part of this healing, again from the flying monkey syndrome, is inviting positive energy. Inviting good things. Speak about good things. We in our bereavement, our bereavement of the people that we've lost in our nation and in our tribes, the bereavement time is you have to have boundaries, because you can't the grief, we just lost Clyde Heavy Runner last night. So I had to pray, put out and say my prayers for him, and just do my smoke my personal pipe and then go for a walk. And one of the ways, and I share this with everyone, have your ritual before you get on Zoom or you get on Facebook Live or any of that, is, so I always take a bubble bath. So, get the lavender, get all of that, take the bubble bath, and then it prepares me, rebraid my hair, and be prepared. And that's what I did this morning, was just, so with that bereavement, lay on the ground, say your prayers for that person that's crossing over. Again, I hear some of our elders, and one of my colleagues, as well as a person that I always go to, she's always worked with people, death and dying, and I hear her say it, and then I hear some of our elders say it. They say their work on earth is done. Their work on earth is done, and that bereavement. And in bereavement, again, it's the same healing, the same love, the lateral love, instead of the lateral oppression that might, because like when we have anxiety and we're worried, which has come, look at this, it's almost like a slinky in this pandemic. So when you find yourself, in that bereavement, grab someone. And, now that we can't do it physically, reach out for help. And reaching out for help, so let's just say a little bit about that. We're, at Native Wellness Institute, we're just hearing people, exploring 12-step Zoom. Get on the Zooms and see what 12 steps, it could be for AA, it could be for shopping, it could be for gambling. Some of our COVID came because of the gamblers, the active gamblers going off the reservation and bringing it back. So ask for help. Figure out a new way of help. And I was just on a meeting with lame deer people who have really good sobriety, and because they just had 40 deaths. And just how they're paying attention one day at a time and taking care of themselves. And we've spoken of that, one of the baseline, self-care or self-love, so that when you're dealing with whoever the flying monkeys are you're dealing with the change in our country. It's called HALT. And it's just a basic self-care, where you aren't hungry, you aren't angry, you aren't lonely, or you aren't tired. Because when you have all four of those elements, that's when you get in trouble. And so I'd like to just tell you a couple of stories, and because I think stories, I was thinking, in my, one of the narcissists that I dealt with was an ex-husband, and bless his heart, I still pray for him. But I remember and this might be just for couples when they try to change you. One of the things that he kept gaslighting me with was I would go to, I had my favorite 12-step meeting that I would go to on Saturdays, and then I had another one on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and he thought I went to these meetings too much and that I needed to not go anymore and just be his wife. And act like a wife, whatever a wife acts like, But I remember going to my Saturday meeting, and it was at 9:30, and we would have our meeting, and then some of us would go have coffee together afterwards and have some breakfast and just visit. It was just part of our support system to each other for our healing. And so I remember I parked my red van and I went into the meeting, and what he did is follow me to the meeting, and he had a second key to my vehicle. And while I was in the meeting, he took my van and he parked it down the street and around the corner in a different spot. So that's like intentional, that's an example of gaslighting. And so when I came out, I felt confused because I knew I'd parked right there, and but I still had my friends, and we were getting ready. I go, "Hey, I parked my car right here," and it's hi. So I'm going to continue with the story. And so when I came out of the 12-step meeting, and this is when I was being gaslighted and my vehicle was moved. And then my friend, and one of my friends, he's down in Hopi land. We're never part of the anonymity. We can say that we're in 12-step, but we can't say other people's names. But he just said to me, it's probably old trick. He's trying to confuse you. Don't fall for that SHIT. He said, come on, help, let's find. So then my friends helped me find my vehicle, and we found it parked, like I said, around the corner. And, I got in and we went to breakfast. And so that's the other part, is asking for help. And when you feel confused, when you're being gaslighted by these flying monkeys, and part of that gaslighting, it comes with the news. It's because part of, even right now, like whoever gets pardoned during this time before January 20th, because all of the flying monkeys, and there is a long list of flying monkeys that are looking for a pardon, including the narcissist himself. And so I was just thinking, and it's kind of like, wow, wouldn't that be awesome if Leonard Peltier got pardoned? It's like, it's kind of like a weighing, do you perturb the FBI, or do you perturb the Indians? Do you, and I was thinking, well, if all of those other flying monkeys could be pardoned, maybe. So this morning I say, Creator, because, when I pray, I say, Stabatapi, could you just pardon Leonard Peltier? You would just make so many of us, it would symbolically, like, we've all been in political prison. We've been political prisoners. It would just help us all heal. So let's talk about some of the healing steps. Deb O'Rero, who I always visit with, and I said, hey, guess I'm talking about the flying monkey syndrome. And I was telling her the story, about this past Thanksgiving, and which in our bubble, our family, we made a little commitment, because our mother asked us not to talk about anything miserable. and to just talk about um, thankful things, and to talk. And so Deb O'Rell, she said, and she works with death and dying, and so all of, she drives out on her reservation and sees people in their home, and because they prefer to not put them in the nursing home. And so what they do is Deb visits them, and she's part of the team that takes care of them, so that hopefully they can pass in their own home and die in their own home and not have to go into a nursing home or a care center. And so she said bring that positive energy. So so I ask you, and in the comments, those of you who are watching, I'm going to ask you, how do you invite the positive energy to come into your life? How do you what do you do? I mean, because like those of you that have are with your family, especially someone young, like young, like under 8 years old, are you have cats. I notice cats are one of the best ways to bring your positive energy. Dogs, horses. So that is a way to invite that energy. It's just like right before I went on. Well, he went outside. I was Ocon Iron Pipe. He's my main. He's 14 years old, and so I was talking to him in telepathy. And so let's just, one of the, and I thought everybody did this, but one of the things that we were taught as Indian kids is to practice telepathy. And so one of the practice ways and to bring in that positive energy is just to think about a person, and in your mind talk to them. Think about what they look like, think about their voice, think about your love for them. And then sometimes when you're doing that, you'll get the phone call or you'll get the FaceTime call. We used to, a lot of times when, and I see it now, I have some cousins across the lake, and they're a young married couple with 4 children. And they talk telepathy all the time to each other. It's kind of like when they run a restaurant, a takeout restaurant, and they also have a little store. But they were talking about, just when they need each other, and it isn't, they can't just, there isn't even time to make the call of telepathy of just calling that person and calling them and telling them to come. Books of what? And that's a self-care thing that you could practice, and try to practice it with your family. I mean, even if they're in the other room, call them in your mind telepathically and tell them to come. And you get better and better at it, and there's like this synchronicity to it. So calling that positive energy. So one of the ways that you can really protect yourself, and this is like a boundary thing from the flying monkey syndrome or being gaslighted, is to send out, to call yourself your Indian name. And I learned this from Audrey Bastine when I asked her. I had to do a commencement speech at UC Berkeley in 2017 for all the Native graduates, and I told Audrey, I said, Audrey, I don't want to, it's not going to stand behind a podium and walk around. I don't want to do a settler commencement speech, but I want to speak from my heart. And so this is what she told me. She said, Theda, whenever you're called to do stuff like that, she said it's a duty and it's a discipline. Before you get up and speak, the way, and this is like you gather yourself, and to call your energy is to call your Indian name. So teach your children, and with yourself, go in the 4 directions, Buksaput Mokoyo Sokoyi. Buksaput makoyo sukoyi. Buksaput makoyo sukoyi. And buksaput makoyo sukoyi. And let that energy of you calling yourself, call back into yourself, and then do what you need to take care of. So one of the others, so I give that gift that was given to me for you in the healing. So sometimes when you're in those situations where you're feeling confused, because part of when you're being gaslighted is we doubt. And if you feel doubtful, anytime you feel doubtful, and boy, there's a lot to doubt in this pandemic, is recenter yourself. Call that energy. Do something, in your bubble. Just hug the people, talk with the people, look into their eyes. I notice, I always think about, we have one of our elders, he's about 90 years old, and he always says, you can tell when someone's getting sober. They look you in the eye, and their eyes are open. Because otherwise, their head is down, or they're staring at their feet. He said, I can really tell. So sometimes when you're to connect with that energy of another person is to look them in the eye. And one of the other things that we were always taught when we're in the helping, when we have compassion and we're in the helping field, is when you're dealing with someone who is hurting or they want to heal, is to, when you're looking them in the eye, look them in the eye when you're talking to them. Say the prayers for them when you're looking them in the eye. And it's like you can see God in people's eye because you can see their soul. Because when they look at you, there's that positive connection. And even there's a lot of, sometimes I know some of you, one of the most soothing things that has happened during this pandemic time, we've been doing Power Hour for 37 weeks, and is around forgiveness. There might, and even, I kind of like, it's okay, I'm sorry, I got my big old Indian face here, but I got my big Indian face right in your face, but an exercise that could be even done on FaceTime. When you're FaceTiming with people, if you have to apologize or ask for forgiveness, or someone is asking you, even, that's a totally socially acceptable way to do forgiveness. In Native Wellness Institute, we have a healthy relationship curriculum, and we're gonna we've got the whole schedule. You'll be seeing it on our Facebook page for the next 6 months to June. We're going to envelope you with safety nets of healing. And one of them is the healthy relationship curriculum, the training of trainers. But in there, there's a lot of exercises where we have people sitting, face to face in chairs and role playing, asking for forgiveness before they actually ask for forgiveness in real life. And a lot of mediation and agakstamon, we call it, circle justice, are having people forgive each other. And I have to talk about it in stories. One time I was working with, in Canada, a very large organization that has a lot to do with preserving the land and the caribou. And in their mediation session, they asked for help because they had not had a quorum in over a year. And when we did get them together, and it was a 3-day session, we got everyone in the room, what it boiled down to was a dispute between two people, and it was a male and a female who they triggered each other. They triggered each other from their own healing issues. So they beat each other up with emails. You know, you guys know when you get beat up with emails. They beat each other up with purchase orders, and they beat each other because one of the things that the flying monkey syndrome does is they talk behind people's back, or they character assassinate, or they try to get other people on their side. And so this had been going on for a year. And the group finally, you know, said, well, it's so and so and it's so and so. And when we got them together, and the group was all sending the positive healing forgiveness energy, and they sat face to face in a chair, and they apologized to each other. And after they apologized, they also said the steps that they were going to take so that there wasn't re-injury, or there wasn't any more hurt. And like they were going to have a quorum, like they were going to meet, and if something came out, they were going to ask for mediation again. And I just remember that group crying. I remember that group describing that they felt like a giant weight had been lifted from them. I remember that group just and we had them retell each other, because they cared for each other, but they had gotten swooped up in this ego. And you know, ego stands for edge God out. And ego has its purpose. We all have to have an ego, but when that ego is narcissistic and just hurting people without because the narcissist sometimes, because of their wounds, they actually enjoy hurting people. And then they have people, again, the flying monkeys around them. We'll put the handout. There's one page describing all this so that you can use it. And it will also be in the trainings that we have coming up. The healthy relationship trainings, we're going to be doing some gonas. The indigenous 20-something is doing some incredible work right now, and this is just our young millennial people are designing healings, because the healing is different for millennials right now. You know, I was just looking at, you know, they're saying that 30% of the millennials that would have moved out have to stay with their parents now, or because of this pandemic, that we're in a situation where families just have to help each other. They're saying that millennials are delaying getting their own house. They're saying that millennials are delaying having children, that they're delaying getting married. And so maybe, you know, probably some of the healing is all of us need to just help all of our millennials and guide them through their normal rites of passage at this time. You know, and because there's no shame in collective agreement where we're all helping each other. Plus, I was just thinking, you know, we have, like most of on this res, you know, we got big families, and I say, you know, maybe 3 or 4 generations in one household. And but one of the good things, and just again around collective agreement and around the healing and the self-care is, I'm looking for a clock because I was just visiting away. Because, you know, part of this power hour is just visiting with you. We want you to think more about coming back to yourself and coming back to your own reality and taking care of yourself. And that's why the power hour is on, you know, every day during this hour, is to do some uplifting. And so I think I'll share a couple more stories. You know, I was thinking about all of the sisters and brothers. So I want to give a shout out to the Native Network, the dads that are in kind of like the Orville area, Mike Duncan, Mary Thomas, Albert, Dean Hoagland, Santiago, all of that group there, Cliff, Moto, all of them. I want to give a shout out to them because, you know, I was listening to how they were giving positive energy to all of the dads in the fatherhood program. And that is something, you know, the fatherhood's all getting together, the men all getting together. And so think about this in this energy. How is, you know, how is your friendships? Because as we're all transforming, have you created new friendships in this pandemic? Some of us, you know, and it looks like I'm just looking at the Wi-Fi here, and I'm gonna that so have and this is an old Indian trick that we learned from May Tallow. She's one of our elders we lost last year, and she lived a long, healthy life. And she was teaching us. She said one of the ways that you keep living and you living good is that you have to work on developing new friendships all the time. And so I ask you to, how have you developed, are the friendships that you may have neglected, how did you renew them? How did you cherish them? How have you helped them grow? And because that brings positive energy, you know. And it's because one of the healings, you know, one of the healings of the flying monkey syndrome, to take care of yourself, is to invite non-gaslighting people into your life. And so finding people who like enjoy the self-care with you. I mean, you know, I was looking at my friends who are, you know, trying yoga for the first time, you know, and making their own Indian yoga mats, you know, because a lot of us can't go to the store, you know, so we're just, our people are just learning how to order things in, you know. We don't have the Walmart where you can drive up and get stuff. But I was just thinking about, in this friendship, of inviting non-gaslighting people into your life. How can you do that for yourself? You know, any of you that have created new friendships, I want to give a shout out to Karen Pheasant. And Karen is she is a longtime jingle dress dancer, and she just finished her book called Powwow. And the last time we always see each other up here, we have the Ixkanaks, the Horns, have a powwow on December 25th. And so a lot of our people, it's a time when we all get to visit, we all get to renew friendships, and we all dance together. And it's a social. But I saw Karen there, and she's teaching up in Calgary. She's one of those women that, to give out the positive energy, she taught hundreds of young girls, two-spirited people, and women to make their own jingle dresses and to dance, the celebration of dancing and singing. And she has a book, and I just picked it up. It's called Powwow. And so she puts that energy out. So that's an example. So how are you making those new friendships? Another person, I guess I just have to, another shout out to Laneda Warjack. And Laneda is a lawyer, and she is original occupant who occupied Alcatraz 51 years ago, when they took over Alcatraz in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she has a book. And I swear I just opened it up this morning. You know, I saw it when I saw her last year, and we had all the ceremonies and all the prayers on Alcatraz. But she sent that, and I was looking through it, and Laneda, I just see all the positive energy. And even I'm speaking about women who wrote books. Would like to invite you, you know, at Native Wellness Institute, if you have the courage and the wherewithal to share some of your story of healing, we invite you to contact us. If you're willing to, and you can see, if you go back, we have a YouTube, we have on our Facebook, of course, And on our website, you can see all of the, I think it's 220 now at Power Hours. You can see the kind of topics and the healings that we have. But we want to invite you because we're moving into a season of healing. And that's why we have these each day. And we're challenging everyone like to make a happy list. This is like because a year from now, so December 2nd, 2021, a year from now, we will all have had the vaccine. We will all have had our lessons that we've learned from the pandemic. We will all have had our transformation of deciding what's best for us and our healing in our careers and the things that we need. And so a year from now, what do you have to look forward to? What are you planning? It's interesting. We've had several trainings, and we're hearing things from people that they are going to go and just camp. Go with good weather, though. Good weather. They're just going to live on the land, cook outside. We hear people saying that they're going to get an RV, be safe, and they're going to travel powwow season. We're hearing people say that they're going to, once they can get with their family, they're going to get them all together and give everyone their new Indian name because they could count coup for what they did during this pandemic. We hear there's just so many things. So in the comments, put the things that in a year, what are you looking forward to? And that positive energy. Once I was just, for those of you, you may not have, some of you may have traveled on planes, some of you may have traveled, and I was just thinking about how that will be. And just to re-travel on a train, maybe go on a bus trip. I'll mention this again. My friend Cecilia Fire Thunder, and Cecilia, we did a lot of women in wellness, and I always say this because she's my elder, and I want to make my elders happy. And I just I just want to share with you just for a moment. There's my pet fox. And do you see that pet fox? How his eyes, like I'm right above, his eyes are looking right into me. I have learned, and that pet fox, of that family over the 10 years, I've always just spoken softly to them, and we look into each other's eyes, and it's almost, he's still out there. But what are you going to do, again, to make this happy list? This challenge of, and it's energy giving. It's energy to think about the good things that you're going to do. I know several people are working on their new outfits. I know some people are, we have one of our brothers has been tanning, hides from all the buffalo, and he has a complete, it's about, I think the diameter's like 12 feet, but he has a complete tan buffalo hide lodge. We call a teepee a lodge. And he's going to be able to put it up. That's his happiness goal. So be thinking, Native Wellness Institute, we, this week we have several people on. I mean, I was just, God, this week, hearing about the 53 years of marriage, and this is my Lavina Louie. Lavina Louie is always so good to us. She gave us all of these with the Native Wellness Institute logo in our name. And I wore it today, but I was just thinking about Deb and Jeannie, her parents. And I always hear over and over from people who live over near Coeur d'Alene and Omak that though they all know them. They know they're this couple with incredible humor, incredible life force, that they're like give out the positive energy to everybody they meet. I know the last time I was with them, we were in a healing, and they gave me some beaded earrings and a necklace, and that's kind of, you notice how Indians are like. One of the ways that gives positive energy is to give away. One of our relatives here just posted on Facebook. He will get anybody a live Christmas tree, and so people said, "I need one. I need one." So I could just see him. He's got the truck. He's got the tools, and for free. He's just going to get everyone there if they want to decorate a real Christmas tree. Because some of us don't want to kill a tree, so we have a fake tree. But this year we're in abundance. So, and then the dry meat, the cutting contest, and I guess I'll kind of wind down with that. I was thinking of all the love that dry meat cutting contest brought to our reservation. Because everyone they started asking questions like, what, first of all, what kind of meat it was. Was it elk meat? Was it deer meat? What kind of knife did you use? And how do you sit? How do you prepare yourself? Because when you're cutting dry meat, you can cut a hole, or and so it was just so much tenderness. So much positive energy, and then you just look at the outcome. I almost thought we should have had first, second, and third, but it was like winner take all, and just an indigenous skill, dry meat cutting. And I know just because of all of the positive energy that went out in this past month with this dry meat cutting contest, is that we'll have brand new, practicing for the first time, dry meat cutting young people, or maybe to pick it up. And I was thinking of our own mom. She cuts every year, and this year, well, it's not over, but it's not over. But just always just sitting there, and she always looks so peaceful, so calm, and just loving. And that's these racks that I got hanging up here is makeshift dry meat. This is, mom and Lori put those up because they didn't want, Lori said, especially you don't want any mice getting, so she put tin foil. And anyway, and then in my other room I have dry meat racks. I guess this house is just set up for cutting dry meat. So I'm going to end with a collective agreement, that story that just happened here. On our reservation, if you're 65 years or older, you get a free elk tag. And so my mom has always looked forward to that. Next year, I'll be 65 and I'll get to get a tag. And so we always, get help. And so my nephew, Doug, always gets my mom an elk. And this year, it was just a small calf, but it was a lot of meat. And it's a lot to, saw the meat up and butcher. So another friend had offered, C&C Meats had offered to process this for my mom. So anyway, they had the elk, and when my mom was here and she was taking a nap, and they called and they said, "We got your meat ready." And I go, "Well, how much do I owe you? Because we want to compensate you." And they said, "No, not for her, not for an elder like that. We can't charge. Plus, we're giving you a gift, and we're giving her some other gifted meat. But please come and get it." And I tell you, when I went over there to, pick it up, they had buffalo, they had elk, they had pork chops. I mean, they had, because, they cut a lot, they cut pigs, they even had a live buffalo in their yard. But they were this collective agreement, and that gave our mother such happiness, because she'll have meat almost all winter. And It was like there was no money exchanged at any level. No one had to pay for anything except a little blood, sweat, and tears. And so I'm going to end with that story, because one of the things of just staying in our reality to deflect off the flying monkey syndrome, especially now, before we have our inauguration in on January 20th, is just to think about how you can pay it forward. Think about how you can give someone good energy. Think about how you can send them good words. Think about, even on Instagram or Facebook, any of the messages that you're to send out that telepathic energy and send love and respect to every person that you interconnect with and that you contact. And so with that, I want to, Kitsikako Mim, that means I love you, I care for you, and thank you for